The DNA test results arrived. 99.9% match. The problem? The father has been locked up in a maximum security prison for the past 5 years. So how is it possible that a child, born 3 years ago, could be his biological son? The Okonkwo family had always been synonymous with prestige in Lagos. Properties along the coast, luxury cars in the garage, exclusive dinner parties where government officials and wealthy businessmen fought for invitations. Adaeze carried that surname like a sacred mantle, a legacy that demanded flawless appearance, spotless reputation, and carefully managed public image. She had married Chibuzo at 23 in a lavish ceremony covered by society magazines. He came from an equally powerful family, a brilliant lawyer with ambitious political aspirations. On paper, their marriage looked perfect. For several years, they played their roles perfectly. Luxury vacations, charity galas, picture-perfect Instagram moments. Adaeze chaired the family foundation, organizing food drives while wearing designer dresses that cost more than most people's cars. But one thing was missing. No children. Year after year passed. Family members began whispering. His mother's remarks at Sunday dinners became increasingly pointed and cruel. In the 5th year of marriage, Chibuzo was arrested. Financial fraud, money laundering, white-collar crimes that made headlines nationwide. The verdict was brutal. 12 years in a maximum security prison with no chance of parole before 8 years. No conjugal visits. No physical contact beyond a monitored handshake once a month. The prison walls that separated him from the world made biological fatherhood impossible. At first, Adaeze visited regularly, bringing homemade meals and legal updates, clinging to the hope that appeals might work. But as time dragged on, visits became less frequent. She had a life to manage, a public image to maintain, assets to protect, and a family position to uphold. Though increasingly, she felt people's barely hidden sympathy and judgment. It was in the 3rd year of Chibuzo's imprisonment that Adaeze discovered she was pregnant. The news came as a shock. She'd gone to the doctor for persistent nausea, assuming it was stress-related or perhaps stress-induced ulcer from keeping up appearances during the scandal. The doctor ran routine tests. When the results came back, he called her personally with the news. 6 weeks pregnant. Adaeze's world collapsed. Her husband had been incarcerated for nearly 3 years. 3 years with no physical contact, no intimacy, just monitored handshakes. The math made no sense. How was she pregnant? For days, she was paralyzed with panic. She couldn't tell the family yet. She needed to process, understand, figure out what this meant. But time was running out. When she finally revealed the pregnancy, the family erupted. His mother was the first to lose it. She screamed that Adaeze was a betrayer, a disgrace who destroyed the family name. How could she get pregnant while her husband, innocent or not, was locked away? How dare she show up with another man's child? His brothers demanded a paternity test immediately. Her own family split. Some thought there might be an explanation, that maybe fertility treatments explained it. Others simply couldn't face the scandal and withdrew. Social media went crazy. Gossip sites spun wild theories. Who was the real father? A household staff member? A security guard? One of the lawyers on Chibuzo's appeals team? The speculation never stopped. Adaeze gave birth to a healthy boy in a private clinic, away from journalists and curious eyes. She named him Chukwuemeka, because deep down, despite the chaos, she knew there had to be an explanation. There just had to be. At 3 months, Chibuzo's family issued an ultimatum: a DNA test immediately, or they'd sue her for inheritance, evict her from the family home, and destroy what little reputation she had left. They hired one of the top labs in the country, the kind known for handling high-profile cases with complete confidentiality. DNA samples were collected from the baby and compared against Chibuzo's genetic material that had been stored from a medical exam before his imprisonment. 2 weeks. 14 days that stretched like months. Adaeze couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. She'd rock the baby in the pre-dawn darkness, whispering prayers, begging for the truth, whatever it was. The results arrived in October 2025. Adaeze opened the envelope alone, her hands trembling so much she almost tore the paper. Her eyes moved past the technical data and numbers until she found the answer. Probability of paternity, 99. 9%. The test was clear. Chibuzo was biologically the father. For a moment, Adaeze felt an overwhelming wave of vindication. She was right. There had to be an explanation. But then reality crashed in. Chibuzo had been in prison for 5 years, completely isolated, no conjugal visits, no physical contact. And yet the DNA proved, with near absolute certainty, that he was the father. It made no sense. When Adaeze called the family meeting, they sat in shocked silence. His mother read the paper, reread it, then looked up with a mixture of confusion and anger. "This is impossible," she said quietly. "Absolutely impossible." "That's what the lab confirms," Adaeze said carefully. 9% match. He's the father. His brother lost it. Are you insane? He's been locked away for 5 years. 5 years. The baby is 3 months old. The numbers don't work. "I understand how this sounds," she started. "You understand?" His mother stood, crumpling the paper. "Did you bribe the lab? You must have. Because what you're telling us violates every law of biology." The uncle, usually the quietest family member, spoke up. "Actually, there's precedent," he said calmly. "Last month, we heard of a case in another city where a pastor was discovered to be the biological father of the couple's children. The wife had been having an affair the whole time." "That has nothing to do with me," Adaeze protested. "I was faithful." "But here's the thing," the uncle continued. 1 in 4 children aren't biologically related to the man raising them. DNA tests keep revealing this. We thought we were special. We're not. We're part of a pattern." Adeeze's voice rose, tears streaming down. "You're not listening. The test says he is the father. My husband is the biological father." His mother stepped close, her face inches away. "Your husband's been locked up for 5 years. You got pregnant after he was inside. Physics doesn't work that way. No matter what the lab says, it's impossible." The room was electric with tension. The baby sensed it and whimpered. "There's something you haven't considered," she said quietly but firmly. "Something we did before his arrest. Something we kept hidden." Everyone went still. "What?" his mother demanded. Adaeze took a breath. She was about to reveal a secret she and Chibuzo had meant to keep forever, but if she didn't explain now, they'd destroy her. "Before Chibuzo was arrested," she said carefully, "when we knew it was coming, when the lawyers said the sentence would be long, we made a choice. We did something." The room fell silent. Even the baby stopped crying. "We had his sperm frozen at a fertility clinic." The shock hit like a wall. People's faces went white. "Years of trying naturally, you all know that," she continued. "When we realized he'd be imprisoned, he suggested we preserve samples, just in case, so I could still try to be a mother someday, after he got out." His mother sat back, stunned. "You used it?" 6 months ago, Adaeze said. "IVF with his frozen material. That's why the DNA is 9% match. He is the biological father, just not the way people expect." His brother looked confused. "Why didn't you tell us? Why let us publicly accuse you?" "Because it was private," she said, tears falling. "Our secret. Our last hope before everything fell apart. I didn't want it exposed this way. I wanted to protect it." But his mother didn't look convinced. In fact, she looked more suspicious. There was something else, something about the timing, the secrecy, the choices made. "If you had legally preserved his material," she said slowly, "if you were planning for IVF, why hide it? Why keep it secret from the family? You would have told us immediately when you found out you were pregnant." Adaeze's throat tightened. Because there was more to the story. So much more. The real truth was buried deeper. It went back further, to the months before Chibuzo's arrest, to something that happened between them, a secret no one in the family knew. To understand how a child could be his when he'd been imprisoned for 5 years, you'd have to go back to the beginning, to the final weeks before prison took him away, to secrets created, to promises broken, to irreversible choices made. And it all started with one question his mother had the right instinct to ask. If they'd never been able to conceive naturally in 5 years of marriage, why had they suddenly decided to preserve his genetic material? The real answer was buried in those final weeks, in doctors' visits that changed everything, in truths discovered too late. Rewind 5 years, before the prison sentence, before the scandal, before the lies. This family had looked perfect. Wealth, status, everything. But inside, something was crumbling. And it started with a word no one wanted to say: infertility. For her, the wife each month felt like a personal failure. Each negative test confirmed what she feared. There was something wrong with her. She had the house, the successful husband, the social position, everything except what mattered most: a child. At first he was patient, supportive even. They told themselves time would help, that stress was the problem. But months became years. His patience wore thin. The doctor's visits started in secret, private clinics far from the city where nobody would recognize them. Test after test, blood work, ultrasounds, procedures that left her feeling stripped of dignity. And the verdict was always the same: nothing medically wrong with her. But he had already made up his mind. It was her fault. Somehow. Dinner conversations turned cold. His eyes changed when he looked at her. No more warmth, just resentment. Like she'd broken a promise. Then the family got involved. His mother would smile sweetly and ask, "Still nothing? The woman across the street is pregnant with her third." Such a blessing. Jabs disguised as chit-chat. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone had solutions. Herbal remedies, prayer to saints, traditional healers. As if her body were a broken machine that needed the right part. The whispers were worse. She'd hear them when she walked past. "Barren?" people said quietly. Not quietly enough. What's he staying for? He could be with someone who can give him children. In many cultures, infertility isn't just personal shame, it's social exile. Studies show 64% of infertile women face real discrimination. For her, it was worse. It wasn't just that she couldn't have a child. It was that everyone noticed, judged, and reminded her constantly. She started making excuses to avoid family gatherings, baby showers, weddings, anything where there might be kids. Each invitation felt like a reminder of her failure. And he? Instead of protecting her, he made it worse. At a family gathering, after too many veiled comments, he snapped. In front of everyone, he pointed at her. "Maybe the tests are right. Maybe the problem is actually hers. Mine are fine." The room went silent. She didn't cry then, not in public. She kept her composure. But something inside shattered. The man who promised to stand by her had just publicly blamed her for something neither of them could control. The marriage became a war zone. Arguments got worse. He said she'd trapped him in a dead-end marriage. She begged him to stay patient, to try new treatments, not to give up. But every time she reached out, he pulled back further. That's when the money started disappearing. She didn't see it at first. He handled finances. But slowly, she noticed. Unpaid bills, late-night phone calls, meetings he called business, but wouldn't explain. Was he spending money on fertility specialists? Or something worse? What she didn't know was that his desperation had turned dangerous. His obsession with having a child combined with pressure to keep up appearances had pushed him into illegal territory. Within months, the police would be at the door. She knew none of this. All she knew was she was losing him, and that everyone would blame her. The breaking point came at a family lunch. His family filled the dining room, food everywhere, kids running around, his pregnant sister-in-law glowing, and his mother praising her fertility, planning the future. Then his mother looked at him and said, "In the old days, if a woman couldn't give children, the man would find one who could." She set her fork down. Everyone stared. Some looked embarrassed. He just looked away and kept eating. That night, she couldn't sleep. The marriage was over. But she needed answers. She made an appointment at a fertility specialist in the capital. Alone. Secretly. The most advanced tests available. A week later, The doctor told her, "Your reproductive system is completely normal. You're ovulating perfectly. There's nothing wrong with you." She couldn't believe it. "Then why? Why can't I get pregnant?" The doctor paused. "Has your husband been fully evaluated?" Her whole world flipped. Years of shame. Years of being blamed. All based on a lie. She wasn't the problem. She'd never been the problem. She went home with the results. She practiced what she'd say. How she'd finally clear her name. But the house was empty. A note on the table. "Emergency business meeting. Don't know when I'll be back." She didn't know it then, but that emergency was his arrest. While she was discovering her innocence, he was getting caught in illegal dealings. Everything happened fast. Police, interrogations, lawyers. His family scrambled to protect their reputation. And her? She became invisible. No one cared about her medical proof. There was a bigger scandal now. The trial was brutal. The evidence was overwhelming. He was convicted, sentenced to prison. She disappeared the day he was transferred. Gone for 3 months. Her family wouldn't say where. No one asked. The imprisoned husband was scandal enough. Let the barren wife vanish. 9 months into his sentence, she came back. With a baby. Healthy. Beautiful. Perfect. The family was stunned. "How is this possible?" they whispered. She could never get pregnant. Now she comes back with a child. She said nothing. Just smiled and said, "God's timing is mysterious." But everyone wondered, where had she been? Who had she seen? Whose baby was this? If she couldn't get pregnant in 5 years of marriage, how was she pregnant now while her husband was locked away? The answer to all these questions was hidden in those 3 months of silence. What she did next was shocking. When a woman vanishes for 3 months and returns pregnant, that silence isn't accidental. It's strategic. It's the kind of secret entire families protect, because admitting the truth would break them. And that silence started cracking from the moment the imprisoned husband asked one question. "Whose baby is this?" She didn't answer right away. The answer was complicated, layered with secrets, desperate decisions, encounters that shouldn't have happened. And the family realized something terrifying. There wasn't just one possibility. There were 3 men. The first was the best friend. He'd been everywhere during the marriage's collapse, calling constantly, visiting all the time, offering comfort. He was wealthy, well-connected, and had open access to the house. The kind of man who solves problems with money, who knows how to make things disappear, who can manipulate situations so nobody asks questions. During those final months of the marriage, he was the most present, the most concerned. But sometimes concern and romantic attraction blur together. People started remembering details. The way he looked at her. Late-night messages on her phone. How often he showed up when the husband was away. Suspicious. Or incriminating. The second was the pastor. He'd provided spiritual counseling through all the infertility struggles. He'd prayed with her, cried with her, held her hands while she begged God for a miracle. But there's a disturbing pattern here. Just weeks before this case surfaced, another family discovered their pastor was the biological father of their children. A DNA test proved it. 99.9% match. The man supposed to protect marriage had destroyed it instead. This isn't isolated. It's becoming a pattern. Religious authority abusing spiritual trust. So when the family considered the pastor as a suspect, they weren't paranoid. They were realistic. She'd spent hours alone with him, in private counseling rooms, behind closed doors. And in a society where questioning a religious leader means questioning God, nobody ever asked what happened in those rooms. Now they were asking. The third suspect was the business partner. He was financially intertwined with Chibuzo in ways that made accusations dangerous. They had joint investments. He knew the family's financial secrets. He knew where everything was hidden. Because Chibuzo's business wasn't clean. There was unexplained money, transactions off the books, and the partner made it all happen. If he was the father, accusing him wasn't just about infidelity. It would start a financial war that could destroy the family. And he knew it. 3 men, 3 possibilities. A woman at the center of chaos she'd created but could no longer control. The family demanded the truth. Not rumors, not speculation. They wanted science, proof, facts. Then a neighbor came forward, an older woman from down the street who'd seen everything but said nothing. Until the scandal broke and she realized keeping silent made her complicit. She told the family, "I saw her. With one of them. Multiple times. During those 3 months she was gone." The room went silent, the kind before a storm. "Which one?" they asked. She gave details. Times, places, how they met secretly. The suspect list narrowed. The infidelity wasn't theory anymore. An eyewitness confirmed it. But a bigger question remained. Which one was the father? Seeing them together and DNA paternity are different things. So the family made their decision. DNA tests for all 3 men, the best friend, the pastor, the business partner. All 3 would have to submit. All 3 would face the results. Samples were collected at a private lab, the kind that guarantees secrecy for high-profile families. The labels, the paperwork, the payment, then the wait. 72 hours, 3 days that felt like years. Someone would be exposed. A life would be destroyed. A family's world would shatter. The husband couldn't sleep in his cell, wondering which man had betrayed him. The best friend? The pastor? The partner? All 3 options were disasters. The wife knew the answer, and it was destroying her. The best friend stopped answering calls. His excuses got wilder. The pastor prayed louder, as if religious performance could erase guilt. The business partner moved money around, like he was preparing to disappear. 3 days, then a percentage, a number that would end everything. Who was the 99% match? What would break when the name was revealed? The lab called. The envelope was opened. The nurse held the paper carefully, knowing these documents change lives. She read it again, then looked at the family in that small, quiet room. The silence said everything. "The biological father," she said quietly, "is confirmed as..." She said the name. It wasn't the imprisoned husband. It was the friend. The one who visited constantly. The one who comforted her while her husband rotted behind bars. Her mother screamed, not from surprise, from watching a lie shatter into pieces too small to ever reassemble. Her father stood so fast his chair fell backwards. He looked at his daughter like she was a stranger. "You knew," he said. Not a question, an accusation. "You knew all along." The wife said nothing, stood frozen, eyes on the paper, like not moving could undo the truth. But truth can't be undone. Her brother, the one who'd defended the family honor, who'd called the husband a jealous lunatic, who'd told the neighborhood he was violent, now leaned against the wall, hand over his mouth. He realized he'd been complicit. He'd helped imprison an innocent man. That's the cruelest thing about betrayal. Making everyone believe the victim is the villain. Flipping the narrative. Turning the wronged person into the aggressor. This family had done that. They'd taken a man who loved his wife, trusted her, thought the children were his, and turned him into a monster. It was easier than admitting the truth. Now, with the DNA result in hand, there was nowhere to hide. Prison guards brought him the results that afternoon. He read the paper 3 times, then folded it carefully, put it in his pocket, and stared out his cell window. "I knew," he said quietly. "I always knew. Nobody believed me. Nobody wanted to." In that cold cell, he made a choice. He stopped trying to prove innocence. That was done. Now he'd fight for something else. Reclaiming his dignity, clearing his name, rebuilding himself. Outside the prison, his wife faced something no DNA test could fix: public exposure. Because in 2025, truth doesn't stay hidden. It leaks, it spreads. It becomes posts, comments, headlines. Someone photographed the DNA results. 6 hours later, the story was everywhere. WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. The woman who destroyed her husband was now publicly associated with one of the internet's most brutal betrayals, and the internet doesn't forget. "She deserves what's happening to her," people commented. "How many men are raising someone else's children because of women like her? She should rot. And he should take everything from her." He was going to do exactly that. But the worst impact wasn't on her. It was on the biological father. This family friend wasn't just anybody. He was a well-respected community figure, married, had other children, a reputation, and the DNA destroyed all of it. His wife found out through neighbors. 1 minute you're minding your business. Next minute, 3 people send you the same link. You click, and there's your husband's name. Confirmed biological father of children who aren't yours. Children he comforted and helped while an innocent man rotted in prison. She filed for divorce that day. Didn't wait for him to come home. She texted, "Get your things. Don't come back." His job, gone. His reputation, destroyed. The church expelled him, because betrayal is bad enough. But a betrayal that destroys a family, imprisons an innocent man, ruins children's sense of identity, there's no recovery from that. Here's a sobering statistic. In many countries, 1 in 4 men learns through DNA that children they raised aren't biologically theirs. 1 in 4. This man became part of that silent epidemic. The wrongfully imprisoned husband joined millions of others who'd been sexually deceived. He couldn't confront his betrayer. He was trapped in a cell. He couldn't demand answers, demand justice. He could only wait. But here's where the story shifts. This man, the one everyone called crazy, violent, jealous, was now officially the victim, multiple times. Betrayed by his wife, falsely imprisoned, his reputation destroyed. Forced to love children he didn't father. His lawyer filed 3 lawsuits the same day, against his wife for fraud and wrongful imprisonment, against the biological father for emotional damage and conspiracy, against her family for slander. But the real battle wasn't in court. It was for control of the story. For years it had been. Violent husband arrested for threatening family. Now it was. Innocent man imprisoned while wife committed fraud. DNA proves children aren't his. And when a narrative flips, people who condemned you suddenly apologize. Neighbors who shunned you say they always suspected something. Police review the case. The system that destroyed you has to compensate. His mother couldn't look at her granddaughters without guilt, because these innocent children now knew a truth nobody wanted them to know. They had a father wrongfully imprisoned, and a biological father who destroyed their family. How do you tell a 7-year-old, the man who visited all the time, he's your real father? The man in prison? He's not your biological father, but he was the only one who truly loved you. DNA can prove blood, but it can't fix childhoods, can't undo years of lies, can't give back the nights the imprisoned father spent wondering if his kids still remembered him. But he didn't give up, because now he had something nobody could take: the truth. And truth, even late, still has power. It can flip narratives, turn villains into heroes, and heroes into villains. From his cell, he made a promise. When he got out, and now he knew he wouldn't seek revenge. He'd rebuild. He'd clear his name. He'd prove he wasn't the monster they painted him as. Just a man who loved too much, who trusted the wrong person. This choice redemption over revenge wasn't weakness. It was strength only those who've lost everything possess. When you have nothing left, you finally understand what matters. Not destroying those who destroyed you. Rebuilding yourself despite them. The truth had been buried for years, hidden behind lies and silence. But now, with DNA, he could rewrite the story. Even from behind bars, he could show that truth always wins. Maybe not when we want, but it wins. What happens when a man with nothing to lose finally gets the world to listen? When he becomes the symbol of an injustice thousands suffer in silence. Everything changes. He'd been betrayed, imprisoned, humiliated. But DNA gave him what nobody could take: proof. And he turned it into a weapon. People didn't expect this. Prison doesn't mean defeat. This man had something most prisoners don't: irrefutable proof he'd been defrauded. He wasn't waiting for release. He was rebuilding now. First, divorce. From prison, he hired a lawyer. Not a normal divorce. An explosive petition for fraud and damages. Pages of lies. Evidence of betrayal. "This child is not my biological responsibility," the lawsuit stated. "I was deceived through deliberate fraud. I demand annulment of paternal obligations and compensation for psychological harm." The papers reached his wife at home. She went pale. This wasn't private shame anymore. It was court. It was public. It was permanent. But he kept going. Second, exposing the biological father. His lawyer didn't just file the DNA with the court. He leaked it to the press. Suddenly the whole town knew not just that he'd been betrayed, they knew who did it. Newspapers ran headlines. "Imprisoned man discovers child isn't his. DNA test exposes true father." Forums exploded. Thousands of social media comments. The story spread fast. 3 clear characters. Wronged victim in prison. Lying wife. Complicit biological father. Public opinion flipped overnight. He was no longer a criminal. He was a symbol. Betrayed by his wife. Betrayed by the justice system. People started questioning the original arrest. Was he framed? They asked. Did she help put him away? It didn't matter if it was true. What mattered was the narrative. And now it was on his side. Third, the evidence he'd hidden. Then, his lawyer dropped a bomb. During divorce proceedings, emails emerged, text messages, photos with timestamps, a complete digital record proving he'd suspected the affair before ever being arrested. He'd known. He'd always known. Months before his arrest, he'd noticed. Deleted messages, late nights, inconsistent stories. Like any man watching his marriage collapse, he documented everything. Carefully. Secretly. He hadn't confronted her because he needed proof first. He needed to be certain before destroying everything. But then came the arrest, and that evidence sat in storage for 2 years. Now it was being revealed, and it changed everything. Not just man discovers affair after prison, but man suspected affair, got imprisoned before he could act, and now science vindicates him. A story of layered injustice. A man who was right all along, but had no chance to prove it until now. The redemption was immediate and brutal. His wife lost her job. The company terminated her for circumstances incompatible with corporate values. Translation: they didn't want her stain on their brand. The biological father became a pariah. Friends stopped calling. Family disappeared. Neighbors looked away. Publicly marked as the man who destroyed a family while her husband suffered. Support groups formed online. Justice for him. Thousands joining. Daily posts demanding case review. Online petitions for his release. Lawyers offering free help on appeals. He'd become a symbol. And from his cell he watched. Every news story, every post, every shift in public opinion. He'd lost years. His freedom, his family, his reputation. But now he was reclaiming dignity. Each day, justice tipped further toward him. Courts moved faster. Public pressure worked. Hearings scheduled. The case reopened. Lawyers questioned whether the original evidence was manipulated. Witnesses recalled. The system that had crushed him now worked for him. But wait, there's something in the middle of this. In the center of lawsuits, headlines, and public destruction is a child. A boy who didn't ask to be born. Didn't choose his parents. Didn't create any of this. His whole identity is being exposed publicly. His DNA became evidence. The world knows he's a product of fraud. This boy called a man dad for 3 years. He had memories, even small ones. He built his identity on a lie now exposed brutally to millions. While adults fought lawsuits and reclaimed dignity, nobody asked, what about him? What happens to a child when his origin becomes a headline? When his existence becomes legal evidence? When the whole world knows he's the result of betrayal? Justice was served. Dignity was reclaimed. But at what cost? An innocent child caught in a scandal he didn't create, carrying a burden he didn't choose. Here's the harsh truth. In stories of betrayal and revenge, there are always innocent victims. Usually the ones with least power to defend themselves. Courts can dissolve marriages. Society can judge guilt. Media can tell stories. But who protects this child's future? Who says, your innocence matters more than our need for revenge? This question defines the story's real ending. The family was destroyed. Trust was shattered. Bonds severed. But one choice remained. A test of whether justice could coexist with compassion. Whether revenge could live with mercy. He'd proven innocence, reclaimed his reputation, won in court and public opinion. But now a different choice faced him. One that couldn't be won with DNA evidence. One requiring something harder than vindication. Humanity. And this broken family's next decision would reveal whether redemption still existed in the ruins. The DNA told the truth. Courts delivered justice. But the hardest question, what happens to an innocent child, went unanswered. A boy didn't ask to be born into lies. Didn't choose a manipulative mother or cowardly biological father. Certainly didn't choose to be raised by a man who discovered he had no biological connection to him. The law was clear on parental responsibility. The biological father had legal obligations. But the mother who orchestrated the fraud, who betrayed two men, who trapped a child in uncertainty, she'd face consequences too. Courts ruled. Biological father assumes immediate custody and support. No choice. He'd run from fatherhood 3 years. DNA doesn't lie. He'd register the child, take custody, provide support. The wife lost custody rights. Paternity fraud isn't just a personal lie. It's a crime that damages child welfare. The judge was definitive. She'd manipulated documents, deceived her husband, deprived the boy of his true identity. The court said she was a moral risk to her own son. But the unexpected twist came from the man who could have walked away. The imprisoned husband who suffered double betrayal, whose incarceration led to discovering he'd raised another man's child. He made a shocking decision. He could have abandoned the boy completely. Legally, he had no obligation. DNA proved no biological bond. Law freed him from responsibility. Everyone would understand if he just walked away and started over, avoiding that painful reminder. But he did something different. He publicly announced he'd maintain emotional and financial support. Not because law required it, because conscience demanded it. His words were simple, but carried rare dignity. I raised this boy for 3 years. The betrayal was ours, not his. He calls me Dad. As long as I can, I won't let him feel abandoned because of us. This created another shockwave. Here was a man who'd lost everything. Freedom, confined in a cell. Family, destroyed. Trust, shattered. Yet he chose compassion. The biological father assumed custody by legal force. The betrayed husband offered support by moral choice. The difference was stark. One man forced to father, another choosing to father despite DNA proving he shouldn't. This reveals truth's brutal complexity. It shatters illusions, but it also reveals character. The wife expected the secret buried forever. The biological father expected no consequences. Both bet truth would never surface. But it did. And when truth comes, it forces people to reveal who they really are. The wife showed herself as manipulative, willing to sacrifice a child for her interests. The biological father revealed himself as a coward, only assuming responsibility when forced. And the imprisoned husband, presumed a criminal, revealed himself as the only adult in this tragedy, with moral integrity to put the child's welfare above his own pain. What happened after? The imprisoned husband continues serving his sentence. Justice continues. But his public image transformed. No longer just a criminal. Now a victim who maintained dignity despite everything. Lost physical freedom. Recovered something more valuable. Honor. The wife became a social outcast. Once seen as dedicated mother, now the architect of fraud. Lost custody. Lost credibility. Lost sympathy. Now depends financially on the biological father, the man she betrayed her husband for. The irony, she destroyed her family to be with him, now trapped in a relationship built on lies and mutual resentment. The biological father's career collapsed. When people learned he'd impregnated a married woman, then fled responsibility for 3 years, his reputation evaporated. Lost contracts, lost clients, lost respect. Now legally forced to raise a child he desperately wanted to avoid. The child? He lives with his biological father, court-ordered, but receives emotional and financial support from the man who raised him those first 3 years. 2 fathers, one by obligation, one by choice. This is DNA's reality. It didn't solve everything. Didn't erase betrayal or undo lies. But it redistributed responsibility based on truth, not the wife's fantasy. The moral lesson from this tragedy: In a story built on lies, truth became the only valuable thing. The man in a cell lost freedom, but recovered honor. In a society obsessed with status and appearance, that proved to be the ultimate win. Because you can lose everything. Freedom, family, peace. But if you maintain integrity, if you make right choices when the world excuses you from them, you keep what nobody can take, your dignity. The wife had freedom but lost dignity through lies. The biological father had comfort but lost respect through cowardice. The imprisoned husband, locked away, recovered honor by doing right for a child not biologically his. This is what science proved, and morality confirmed. The DNA read 99.9%. Father was in prison. The answer hidden in betrayal, revealed through science, showed that truth, no matter how painful, is the only foundation a family can stand on. Build life on lies, the foundation crumbles. When it falls, one question remains. Who are you when truth finally surfaces? Have you ever faced truth that destroyed everything you believed? What would you do in his place? Support a child who isn't yours biologically after that betrayal? Or would you say the lie justifies breaking all bonds? Share your thoughts. And if this story made you think about truth, family, and morality, subscribe for more family dramas that challenge everything we assume about relationships, responsibility, and redemption. Because in real life, truth is always more complicated, more painful, and more necessary than comfortable lies.